Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical,
Intellectual stew.
informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew with James.
What's up?
What's up, man?
What it do?
What's going on?
Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew. The edition of What Were You Thinking with James and Avery. And so here we are once again to have another conversation. That's a conversation. To dive deeper into our thoughts and perhaps get some good dialogue going and try to get this conversation going. What's going on, man? How's your day so far?
Man, it's good. It is good.
That's all?
Hey, I got to go back in. I'm doing a double, but to be off for just a little bit, hey, it's good.
He says good, huh? He says you've been doing it. He says you got a double, huh? You've been working on. You've been doing double all week though, haven't you?
Yeah, man, my late guy is off, so when you're in charge, you got to step in and do what you got to do.
Man, I'm gonna be like you when I grow up and be in charge and all that kind of stuff.
Man, I already told you don't want to do that.
Why not?
Yeah.
You're pretty good. You're a pretty good guy. I mean, you seem like a pretty good guy to me. You know what I'm saying? Unless you faking it or something, unless you're trying to fool me.
Hey,
I don't know. I don't know.
I wouldn't do it on purpose.
Man, look, you caught me off guard on this one. Now, normally, y'all, anybody who's listening, I'm the one who calls him trying to do the pop-ups and trying to rush him on the show and all this kind of stuff and get a conversation started. But this time, I think I provoked him a little bit today.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This provocation that has taken place, this provoking, should I say? I want to make that sound right. I mean, provocation. Some people hear the wrong word, but this provoking has caused Avery to reach out and ask me or tell me. He didn't even ask me. He told me, "Listen, we need to do."
Hey, say, come on, man.
Talk about that.
But I got a little time.
So what is it? What is it, my friend, that you want to talk about? What is it that you want to talk about?
Man, this question you put first thing this morning, man, it really intrigued me. Can I just go on and jump in it?
Go ahead. We're here.
All right. You posted this morning, and I mean, I got up. First thing I saw, when dealing with trauma, should we leave the past in the past, or should we just move on as quickly as possible? And I like you said disclaimer, when I speak of trauma, I'm referring to trauma in all relationships. I view trauma as being something that has changed the trajectory of your life. And I think this was a little interesting to me for the fact that I hear about trauma and healing quite a bit in the circle that I'm in and with different people that post about it. And when you posted it, this moving on quickly, I think is a thing that kind of caught my attention because I did relate it to some of the trauma that I've experienced in my life.
Okay.
And I thought about how quickly people wanted me to move on. Only here, Jane, only to discover that I moved on, but I left some stuff.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? You can move me, but there's still some spots that I've left behind. that
Mm,
even in the move, I didn't go back and fix and get healed. So even if I moved on quickly, guess what? Sooner or
what's
later, I
that?
still got to go back and deal with those pieces of me that are fragmented.
Mm, wow. So that one was kind of personal for you.
Yeah, that one was personal. That was
Okay.
it was personal, but then also it was also I guess collectively it was personal, but then also it was, to me, it was kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It was kind of, it was hurtful, it was
Mm,
personal, but then it was also kind of, to me, um a, a lack of empathy and sympathy just from some of the posts and of the conversations that I've had with other people.
wow.
Um, because James, I say this, just because you're able to get healed or get out of a trauma
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that when I face a trauma that may be similar to what you think mine is, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to move quickly.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? And it seems like when I hear people say, "Hey, you need to get up and move quickly," then to me, it's really saying, you know what? I really don't care about what you're dealing with. I was
mm,
able to get over it pretty quick, and I made it all right. So just because I did it, that means you should be able to too. So we're not considerate a lot of
wow.
times, in my opinion, in the processes of others,
Yeah.
because we're looking at it from our vantage point and how we were able to deal with
Yeah. And that's a good point, Avery, because each and every one of our traumatic situations, whatever they were, and listen, and I did put that disclaimer out there on the post when I said, when I look at trauma, I look at something, because I don't, I think sometimes I know people who create their own crisis so they can and then use it like
it. Hmm.
motivation, right? That ain't real
Right,
trauma. You know what I'm saying? And we use
right, right,
terms so loosely. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's narcissistic now. Let everybody tell it. You know what I'm saying? And that's a
yeah,
very
right, right,
term that we use so loosely. Everybody's dealing with mental illness right now because sometimes, nigga, you just made a bad. Excuse me. Sometimes you just made a bad decision. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right,
So
right,
that
right.
ain't, don't attribute that to mental illness. And by the same token, when we start talking about traumas, I wanted to quantify the post earlier today by saying that a trauma is a traumatic situation that has changed the trajectory of your life, right?
Right,
That
right.
changed the direction of your course. Because in life, I think, in church we got this old saying that says every new level presents a new
New
devil.
devil. Right, right,
And if you're gonna get to the next level, you got to whoop the devil on the past level, or you stay stuck. In other words, you got to pass the test, right?
right,
And
right.
before you can move to the next grade, before you can move to the next level, before you can move to whatever, you got to pass this test, right? And so sometimes in life, I believe, whatever your faith is, I believe in God through JC. I'm riding that way, but whatever your faith is, we're presented crossroads, right? And
Hmm.
and those crossroads come at different points in our lives, right? And when
Right,
they come at and at those moments, those defining moments, right? Those are moments where we're challenged, where we to see if we're gonna make a decision. And every decision is either right or wrong.
right, right,
But whether it's right or wrong, each decision still presents experience.
right, right,
And if you process the experience, the fact that I've gone through this experience, whether did good, whether I did bad, whether I missed the ball, whether I fumbled the ball, whatever. But the challenge is, once I fumble the ball, once I slip in the mud, how quickly do I move on? That's what we're talking about.
right,
Because
right,
I
right,
can't move on until I've dealt with.
right,
Go ahead.
right.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and that's the thing. You see me in the mud,
Mm.
and a lot of times you remember, and I think this is the point I want to get to. You remember when you were in the mud,
Mm.
okay,
Okay.
and you
I
remember
see
how
it. I see
you
it.
remember you remember how you were able to get out, and you
Yeah.
remember what steps it took you to get out. But
Yeah.
James, I'm still not you.
Mm. Yeah. I
You
see
know what
that.
I'm saying? You may have been in a quarter inch of mud,
Yeah.
And all you had to do was lift your foot up real easily and go. I might be in 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
It might be still the same type of mud. And even though you were able to get out and all of that, I still have to have some type of guidance. And here it is. I need some motivation sometimes.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in the mud, guess what? I'm embarrassed.
Yeah. That I'm muddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here you come just telling me, oh man, just get on up. You got to move. You got to go. We got to do it real quick.
But that's the manly thing to do. Men ain't supposed to suffer. Men ain't supposed to go through no trials and cry. You crying like a little baby or something. What you want somebody to do, to pat you on your back and coddle
brother,
you and
let
help
me
you?
say
y'all,
this.
Hold
I
on.
know
Let
what
me
you're
say this.
saying.
Let me
Go
say
ahead,
this
go
to the listening audience.
Go ahead.
I'm being 100% facetious right now. Okay, I'm not being insensitive. Now go ahead and say what you agree.
Because I was gonna say you're gonna either cry now, you're gonna cry later.
Okay.
Regardless. Promise.
You will.
Yeah,
You will.
yeah.
You will. You will.
Yeah, hey, look, you gonna cry in front of them, or you gonna go in the back, close the door, and cry in the mirror.
But let me offer this paradigm. Let me offer this paradigm, because I was actually scrolling through the TV a minute ago, right? And hey, if y'all listening, say hi, say cat, say boo, say dog, say something. Let me know you're listening. If you can relate, share your relative stories, and also share this thread. Let's get some more people on this conversation, because we're talking about how quickly you should move on after traumatic situations. How quickly you should move on now. Avery, you said something that I think is very powerful, and I want people to understand, is that each and every one of our traumatic situations have their own unique and individual fingerprint.
Right, right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
All of us, yeah. All of them have their own unique and individual fingerprint. So really, truth be told, whatever you're going through, I can't relate.
Right, right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point, but society teaches us to put everything in a box,
right,
and then put a label on it. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
either black, you're white. Everybody got a gender, everybody got an age. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, all of us have been categorized so much. So everybody has these, because it's so easy. For instance, when you go get a suit, typically you don't go and buy a custom made suit.
Right.
Not on average, because a custom made suit costs you a lot more.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So when you go buy a suit, you buy the suit off the rack. But but the suit off the rack wasn't really made for you. It was made for a mannequin. You can wear it,
right,
but it ain't
right,
necessarily. It wasn't necessarily custom made for you. We go do alterations. We get the shoulders taken in. We get the sleeves taken up. We get all these things done to make a suit that's not ours really fit us and make it our own, right?
Mhm.
And we do that with every other thing in life. Like,
Right.
for some reason, I'll gravitate to your trial and say, well, man, I went through a divorce and I got over my divorce
Right.
fast.
Exactly.
You need to hurry up and get over your divorce.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's not one size fits all.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And what's crazy, we can be in the same house, we can be brothers, and we can see our father abuse our mother.
Yeah.
And it's gonna affect us differently, even though we saw the same, or even if we got beat by our father. You know what I'm saying? So, like you say, each and every one of us is going to affect us differently. So, as you were saying, man, you just can't look, oh man, you just can't slap a remedy on something.
Yeah.
And just expect it to just be over like that. It's a process. It takes time.
But man, I was because we talk about the time factor, and I want to talk about the fact what happens when you don't deal with the tragedy.
Okay.
Because see, that's what a lot, when you were younger, if you went outside and you got a cut, what was the main thing they were worried about if you cut yourself on a nail?
Yeah,
picking up tetanus.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? They want you
sir.
pick up tetanus. So you had to put some type of antiseptic on it before you put the Band-Aid on. You didn't just put the Band-Aid on it.
Right.
You had to put alcohol, and then alcohol make you make that ugly face. You know what I'm saying? Now I prefer peroxide, because peroxide
it didn't sting as much.
It didn't sting, it bubbled, you know what I'm saying? So, but you put that on before the Band-Aid. And a lot of times what we do, and I think especially when we move on too fast, Avery, is we, instead of putting an antiseptic on it,
you hit
that will cause us to sting.
Man.
That will cause us to make that look
right.
monster face. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But instead of doing that, first thing we do is we take an open wound
Right.
and just slap a Band-Aid on it.
Right. Right.
And then what happens is over time, what
Right.
happens? Because you work in the medical
It,
field, you
it,
tell me,
it doesn't heal properly.
it gets infected.
It gets infected. It doesn't heal properly. And guess what? If
What?
sometimes because it didn't heal properly, sometimes the slightest touch is going to reopen it up, and you're going to bleed out again.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Nope. Say that again. Say that one more time. Say that one
I
more
said
time.
sometimes if you hit it at the right spot, you're gonna
Yeah.
reopen it up, and it's gonna start bleeding out again.
But that's good stuff right there. Cause I'm gonna tell you where, cause you know you didn't even ask me this time with your rude self. Avery being rude today, y'all.
I'm
setting him
sorry.
up.
I'm
He didn't
sorry.
even ask me what I was thinking. He just started telling me what he
My
was
bad.
thinking. He act like now the name of this show that we call it is "What
Oh,
Were
man.
You Thinking" with Avery and
I'm
James.
sorry. Hold
Now,
on. Hey, James,
yeah.
man, what were you thinking?
Boo. He gonna hijack my post.
My
just
bad.
like
My
I'm
bad,
playing. I'm
brother.
just-
My
no.
bad.
But no,
My
you
bad.
said you took it personal, and sometimes that happens. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead. What was that question you were just asking me?
No, you had stopped me.
No, you said what was I thinking?
Yeah. What were you thinking when you? You don't, brother. You don't wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and just throw something out here like this.
Man, let me tell you something, bro. I'm listen, man. I tell people sometimes, man, because I don't. You see me, you see the shell
Yeah.
of what I go through. You know what I'm saying? And I go through a lot mentally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I go through a
yeah.
lot because to whom much is given, much is required, and that's not how much money you're given. That's not how much education you have. That's something that's been invested in you. You know, while you were still in your mother's womb. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? When
Mhm.
God planned your next while you were still in your now. You know what I'm saying? And you
Right.
know the responsibility that you have. And sometimes you're not walking in that area. You don't see the evidence of what you envisioned. Oh, that's good. You don't see the evidence of what you've envisioned. You know what I'm saying? And you're looking for the evidence because you saw the dream, you saw the vision, and you're
Right.
waiting to get victory in your vision. But your now don't look like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I heard a preacher one time said, when your promised land looks like a problem land. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to get to where you're going and you start trying to figure out what you might have done to hinder your process. Because I'm not the type, I don't practice point the finger writers.
Right.
I don't practice this thing where I blame everybody else for my trials and my tribulations. I don't practice that. I feel like I'm 100% the recipient of my bad decisions. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that whatever I've been forced to encounter in life, it's because I made the mistake to do it, right? But I think, and here it is, I think because as I've been going through these, because let me just get this one to you. Sometimes, Avery, life is like surgery with no anesthesia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what God does is he keeps you awake while he's working on you. And some of the processes of life are cutting. Some of the processes of life are hurting. Some of the processes of life are painful, right? But he's keeping you awake so he can show you what he's doing to bring you through what you're going through, right? And so you start going through the process. You start going through your mental, and you put your life in mental reverse and look in the rearview mirror, and you start trying to figure, what did I do?
Right. Yeah.
When I came to that crossroad, which crossroad was it that I made the bad decision that got me here?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I think, Melinda, I think those that are listening, I think at a certain point, because even when I made the bad decision or when I did whatever it was that was wrong, I think I was, even though I recognized I was on the wrong road, I kept going.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Because you can be driving down a dirt road, right? And don't look like anything is in front of you. And you have a choice, even though, because you more than likely are on the wrong road. But do you continue to go down the wrong road or do you correct course?
Right.
Turn around and go back. And at least if you get to the mouth of the crossroad.
Yeah.
You
can
feel
at
what I'm
least,
saying?
you can re-navigate. Yeah.
So many times we just go ahead, and here it is. We go ahead with life and just pick up a new normal.
Right.
They say a habit is anything you do 21 days.
Mm,
If you do something for 21 days in a row, that's a habit. You can
Yeah.
you can make that a new habit for you.
Yeah.
So that's your new normal, right?
mm.
And so many of us, and I've seen people, and I'm sure you can relate. I've seen people function in dysfunction.
Yeah, because they think it's normal. It be like you just said. It becomes the normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I see people go live certain ways or have certain ideals, or even some of the posts people put out on Facebook, in response to other people's posts. I would never talk to anybody like that.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I would
Wow, yeah.
never call people out their names like
Right.
that. You know what I'm saying? But that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? That's normal. And it's funny, man, because I am a preacher, and I'm gonna always be that, right? So I was thinking about that whole piece about going back, trying to figure out, where I started
What's
to go
not-
wrong.
uh-huh,
You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
at what point did I just say, just keep moving on?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I thought back in 2 Kings chapter 6, and you gotta look at it, but it talks about the story of the lost axe head, right?
Right.
And it was interesting because the talks about how Elijah was out with the school of the prophets, and the school of the prophets was I think they were trying to build a school or something
Right,
along those
uh-huh.
lines, and they were cutting down a whole bunch of trees, right? And so in order to cut down trees, what do you need?
Gotta have an axe.
You got to have an axe. And you can have an axe handle, but that won't be effective against trees.
Right.
You got to have an axe head. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so so he had the right tool. God had given him what he needed to be successful in the endeavor that he was trying to do. God does the same thing with us, Avery. The Bible says he lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He gives us all
Things.
the right tools,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But sometimes we don't understand the tools, or we don't know how to properly use the tools, and so we end up misusing the tool.
Right.
And
right.
if we mishandle or misuse the tool, then what happens is what happened to this young man. He's knocking down a tree, but then all of a sudden his axe head falls into the Jordan River.
Right.
How many times have you been working with your tool, kept swinging the tool, the axe head came off, and you looked up and you lost what you had? Now, the natural thing to do if you lose your axe head, because we live in the age of Amazon, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We can take our behinds the true value. You know what I'm saying? We can easily acquire a new one at Ace Hardware. We just go buy another one, and we'll get a shinier one, or we'll get one that cuts sharper. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that a tool was lost.
Right.
And somebody had to be responsible for that tool. Does that make sense? I mean, tell me if I'm off. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Because he lost it so many times in life, and you jump in wherever you feel necessary to jump in. So many times in life, we'll have our tool. We'll be going along, being effective. The trees are falling. I mean, everything is right. But then all of a sudden, we'll lose it. And when we lose it, we move on. That's why I asked the question, when the trauma comes, because that was a tragedy.
Right.
That's a trauma. Trauma.
Right. But
go ahead.
But he moved. You to your point though. He moved, but he wasn't moving effectively. And I think that's what caught my attention about the post. That even if you move, are you moving in effectiveness? Are you moving in when you move on real quickly, are you really moving on to a place of progression? You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
because I mean, he okay, the axe head is gone. Let's just say the axe head is gone, but he's gonna move on.
Did he move on?
No, now he had to have somebody come and help him.
No, he didn't move on.
He don't right.
There the scripture says, but as one was felling a beam, the axe head fell into the water, and what? He cried. He didn't move on.
Right.
He immediately responded by he had an emotional reaction in that moment. We as men are taught not to be emotional. And in fact of the matter is, a lot of us don't want to. Here it is. Watch this. Oh God. A lot of times we don't want people to know what it was that we lost.
Right.
Because if we look like we lost something, we'll look less than.
Right. Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So somebody else, because you go fishing, you might have 3 or 4 rod and reels.
Right.
So if one falls in the water, you just keep right on, pick up another one and go right on back to fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But this man, as soon as he lost it, what did
He
he do?
dealt with it.
Let me
He
put it back
dealt
up there
with the
again.
issue.
He
He
said,
cried. He cried.
he
Right.
cried and said, "Alas,
Master.
master, for it was borrowed." So it wasn't even his.
Right.
The stuff that we have is not ours.
not
That's why
ours,
we're stewards.
Right. Right.
We've been entrusted with something for our time in the earth, right? Especially, of the faith that we believe. Now, the other people might, some people believe in self, so that's what they do. Y'all believe in the universe, whatever. Y'all do what you do. But what we believe is that we've been entrusted with something, right? And it's our responsibility to occupy or to trade, or to produce on what we've been entrusted with. So we've been given a tool, and the tools that we've been given are used. I mean, Paul said, "For we are his what? Workmanship." The word workmanship in the Greek means is poiema, which means we are his product. Right? What's the purpose of a product? To be productive. So we're all supposed to be productive with our tool. But what happens is, in our human frailty,
Right. Yep.
in our humanity, sometimes we make mistakes.
Right.
And sometimes we miss the ball. Go ahead.
And sometimes the mistakes, you go back to the text. Sometimes, James, the mistakes were not our fault, and the mistakes were not planned.
Yeah, he
The
wasn't trying to do
mistakes
that.
were, yeah, he wasn't trying to. It was an adverse event, an adverse thing that happened, and he did not expect it, and he did not plan for it. But now he's here.
And that's one thing my dad always taught me, man, growing up. He said a man tries to maintain control at all times, because there are going to come times when you have unexpected events,
Right.
that will challenge here it is, that will challenge the norm. And when that time comes, how is it that you respond to it, right? Do you and like some people say, they just move on as though it never happened.
Right.
And I'm be honest, I think there were moments in my life that I moved on too fast.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't cry out. And look who he cried out to. You see what he said? Let me put it back up there. Look what he said. He said, now he was talking about earthly, because he was talking about his teacher, but he said, "Alas, master." Okay. He called on somebody who he thought could help.
Right. Right.
We don't call on people who we think we can help. We tell everybody we come to Facebook.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And put it out there on Facebook. We come to Instagram, TikTok. We go bleed on people who have absolutely nothing to do with us.
Right.
And when and here it is. When you walk around with open wounds, Avery,
Man.
the chances are you're gonna bleed on somebody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The chances are, if you're walking around, and that's what trauma does to you. Trauma leaves a bruise. And sometimes it opens up a wound. And even with bruises, you bleed, and you're just not bleeding externally.
Right. Right.
You're bleeding underneath the skin. Because a bruise, I think if I learned it right, all of the blood rushes to one area of the skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And causes
to clot it.
I paid attention in it.
Yes,
I hated science.
just a little bit.
Yeah, I hated science. But I paid attention a little bit. And so that's so yeah. So that's where I'm at. Talk to me for a minute. What you think about that?
Well, I'm still at the moment he realized something was missing,
Okay.
and he dealt with it. And James, again, brother, this one is real personal. It's just real personal to me, because man, the people that I deal with, the people that I know, and sometimes the people who are in different ministries and churches, the inbox messages and the conversations, that they feel as though they can't stop to heal, because if they stop to heal, it's as though the power of God is not evident You didn't hear. You didn't hear what I said. You didn't hear
I
what I
did
said.
hear what you said.
Yeah,
You
that.
speaking of, yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes I
yeah,
have to close my eyes when I want to
because
see you. But hey,
sometimes sometimes we tell as in your post, move quickly. Tell people go and get over. You got to get up. You got to get up. You got to go move quick. You got to get over that real quick and all that stuff. But my soul has been bruised.
boy,
And see, and I said something yesterday. Man,
yeah,
sometimes your mind
that's good.
is
That's
your soul was bruised. So how can I take something that's in my soul?
yeah, that's good, bro.
You know,
That's good.
I don't know how to navigate. And here it is.
Wow.
Well, he says, Master, he's reaching out now because he's got to have somebody to come and maybe perhaps give him some direction or some guidance on how to deal with this trauma that's just happened.
Wow. Wow. Because he has a few different issues. Number one, he's borrowing somebody else's tool,
Right. Right.
which means you were lacking in some, you felt as though you
Oh
were
man.
lacking in somewhere in some
Oh
area of
man.
your life.
Right. Right.
If God lighted us, where was his tool at?
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah, because all of us got a tool, right? you
Yeah.
got and how many people borrow and watch this, mishandle somebody else's gift?
Mm. Mm.
How many people mishandle somebody else's anointing, right? And it wasn't even yours. You dropped it, right? Because I might have been that too.
Wow.
But
Wow.
in my life, okay, yeah. I know it's personal. I get it. He said, alas, master, for it was borrowed. I mean, and that's all he said was alas. I mean, he was his mind was messed up at that particular moment because number one, this is the thing. He could have, because sometimes people invest in you because they expect a ROI.
Right.
They want to return on investment. So the reason somebody let him borrow his tool because maybe they were trying to let him use it so he could probably build up to get his own tool.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I mean, we're perhaps in the text now, and that's not in there. That's perhaps in the text. But maybe he was.
Man.
Yeah, maybe he
Yeah.
was. Maybe he was. Maybe he was. And he felt as though he let his friend down.
Yeah.
And so now he's trying to figure it out. But here's the hallelujah part of the text. Because after that instance took place, he went to somebody, as I said, that had the power. Or no, here it is. He went to somebody who possessed the ability and possessed the power to change his situation.
Right.
Like I said, not just a random, self-imposed life coach, you know what I'm saying, who took a couple of 40 hours of classes, and now that but they don't have no experience, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Dude,
Yeah.
Avery,
Yeah.
sometimes lately we've been talking a little bit more because I've been wanting you to understand who you're dealing with, and a lot of times during our conversation you say wow.
Yeah.
Because I share some of the things that I've gone through.
Right.
And then it's interesting because a lot of stuff are mirror images that we've gone through, just in different form. But a lot of stuff we've gone through, a lot of other folk couldn't have survived.
No.
Because I watch the stuff that people going crazy, look like they're pulling their hair out by its roots, and and things that are driving people to seem like they're going to commit suicide or having these breakdowns. I be like, that's all.
Right.
I just look at the last 5 years of my life. I mean, divorce, losing a mother. Losing a mother-in-law who was real close to me at that time. Losing my mother. Losing a job. Not really having a real job over the last 5 years, but bills caught up. All these types of things, right? That just have been trouble and traumas, and I mean, and it looked like you go between the rock and the hard place.
Right.
But sometimes you move from rock to rock. You don't even get a chance to get to because it seems like your good days are outweighed by bad days, right? And so, but at a certain point, you become bulletproof.
Oh yeah. Man.
I mean, at a certain point, you get to the place where if you realize,
is this
you
it?
ain't got nothing but you don't have nothing but your testimony to lean on, and you go back and look at your testimony and say, if God did it then,
man, I always tell people when they're talking to me about certain
Why y'all
things.
not sharing this thread? Why y'all
I,
not? Please share this thread. Go ahead.
I asked them this question. I asked them when they're talking. I asked them, what you're going through now, is it worse than what you've been through before? And a lot of
Mm,
times they'll say no.
yeah.
I say, so if you've already been through the worst, then what makes you think that what you're in and settled with right now is not going to pass over, you know? And but I wanted to say something to the point that you were talking about, what you've gone through the last 5 years and all, and you alluded to the fact, and sometimes I do it too. You're talking to somebody and you're hearing and you're saying to yourself, is that it? Is that all? But here's the thing though about it though, James, and I think this is kind of what separates people who are sympathetic and empathetic, is that I'm not, even though I'm saying this is just it, I'm not condemning you. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not condemning you for what you're facing and what you're going through.
No,
You
not at
understand
all.
what I'm saying? So
No.
even though to me it may be a light thing to me, I still have enough experience in dealing with my traumas that
Yeah.
I'm not going to belittle you in what you're going through.
Yeah.
And to me, again, to your post and what you thinking, to me, again, the people who are so adamant about people moving on quickly, to me, and I could be wrong, but to me it just seemed like there's a lack of
Empathy.
compassion and empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what and it is. It is. And a lot of them, because some people, well, you got different categories of people. You got some people who ain't never lost nothing.
Right? True. True.
You know what I'm
True.
saying? That have
True.
been raised, you know. I know people who were insulated their whole lives.
Right.
That
Right.
we call those people green. You know what I'm saying? Because they never have done
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that individual, you got those people who have never lost anything, and then you have people who have lost things and survived, and they became somewhat numb because
Mhm.
they had to.
Right.
I had to go
Right.
through an IDGAF season.
Right. Right. Right.
And I don't want to say what IDGAF means, but I'm gonna let you know. But I'm sure you can pretty much figure it out.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
I'm gonna put it out
Right.
there for the Saints, But I had to go through an IDGAF season,
Hmm.
and y'all
Right.
know what that means now. But I'm gonna
Right.
change that
Right.
last word to flip. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna say what
Right.
I was
Right.
gonna say.
Right.
But I had to literally go through my own IDGAF season, and that you know what the IDGAF season finally did for me, bro?
What's
It
that?
finally helped me to put myself first,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
had put everybody else first.
Hmm.
That's why I couldn't go back and deal with the lost axe head.
Right.
That's why
Wow.
I couldn't go back and deal with the
Wow.
crossroad.
Right.
I couldn't go back and deal with the trauma because I
Right.
had to move on for her. I had to move on for him. I had to move on for her. I had to move
Ooh
on
wee.
for them. I had to keep this front on my face, that
Ooh.
everything's
Ooh.
okay.
Ooh.
And truth
Ooh.
be told, everything was not okay.
Right. Right. So then to so then what you just said, and correct me if I'm wrong,
I will.
it was
No.
it was at your moment of a sort of isolation when you were away from everybody that you discovered the process of going back to find the axe head and getting, and you understand what I'm saying?
Bruh, I've
So
just
so what
now.
I'm yeah, so what I'm saying is, then a lot of times we can't, man, we can't get healed, we can't get our traumas dealt with, because those people that are telling us to get over it and heal fast and all, those are the ones who are blocking the process of us going to a place of isolation where it can begin to register in our head. You know what? What happened? Away
Yeah,
from the noise, as
bruh.
Israel said.
Man, listen. Like, I became so desensitized to my struggles that um I probably became oblivious to their existence
Wow. Wow.
because I was caught up with. I just had to keep on.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So if people that don't know that they're sick won't go seek a physician.
Right. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So if I'm functioning in dysfunction, if I got all the creature comforts and I got the symptoms of success, children look good, everything else look good, and I'm suffering silently and you can't
Right.
see it, who cares?
Right.
I
Exactly.
just work it out as I keep
Exactly.
moving, right?
Exactly.
But at a
Exactly.
certain point, when I reach rock bottom,
Right. When
when
everything
I'm
was
fine,
removed. Right.
yeah, when I'm
Mhm.
finally by
Mhm.
myself,
Yep.
when I'm sitting in the darkness and I'm all alone, I mean,
Mm.
all alone
Mm.
now. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
all these things going on, right? Then that's when I said, oh, when?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Because I go through a myriad of emotions now.
Right.
Like, dang, I messed up.
Right. Yeah.
Like, wow, I messed up that bad. I fumbled the ball that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
that's where, and at that point in the low moment, because now I'm forced to be silent.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now I gotta be quiet. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Now
Mhm.
all I do is I gotta hear from God. I gotta hear, whatever he's the message. Because you always hear me say that life lends lessons, right?
Right.
But it's on us to consider the clues. So now I gotta consider the clues.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That Solomon said he paid attention to spiders and ants and stuff.
Everything. Right.
Everything
Right.
around him.
Right.
So now because I'm sensitive,
Ah.
because I can hear, because like you said, you cut out the noise, right? But now that I'm sensitive and I can hear, now the walls are speaking to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now everything becomes vivid in life. Now you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I'm able to look back on my life, and now I can do like the young man said in the text, because like he said in the text, he said, "Alas, master." Didn't have to ask nothing, because guess what? When you go to the right person, here it is. This is where I'm gonna shout you at right quick. When you go to the right person, you ain't got to tell them; they already know.
They already know. Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Everybody, a lot of people want you to come and divulge all your personal information and tell what you went through, X, Y, Z. But when you go to the right person, it don't matter, because you know what? They don't care about, because they ain't got to know, because they know he knows.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So he went and said, "Alas, master." And look what the man of God said. He ain't ask him how you lost it.
Right. Right.
He ain't
Right.
ask him, was it borrowed?
Right.
He
Right.
ain't ask him whose
Right.
it was. He ain't ask you, was it he didn't have to pull up the serial number.
Right.
None of those kind of things. All the man of God said, the key thing, he was a man of God.
Right.
All the
Yep.
man of God said was, where did you lose it?
Right. Right.
So
Oh.
now, go ahead, because I'll keep going if you don't get yours. Come on. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so now I'm just gonna, of course,
Y'all need to
there's-
be sharing this. This is a good
there-
conversation.
Look, there's some eisegesis, then there's some exegesis. I'm an exegesis.
You gonna exegete this thing?
No,
Go
I'm an
ahead.
ax. That's
Ax it.
I'm an
I'm
ax.
scared. I'm scared now.
No, so here it is. As you said, he said, "Master." So the man of God said, "Where is it?" So here at this moment, James, now we have to go in the past and start digging. Now, of course, we know the miracle is going to be that he's going to put a stick down in there, and the iron is going to come up and it's going to swim. We know all of that. But what I want to say is that at the moment where he said, where did it fall? So now there's a rewind. There's a pulling off. There's a backtracking. And a lot of times, here it is in our traumas, in our experiences, we have to take time to backtrack and go and when he was saying, where did it fall? I'm pretty sure he had to navigate. I'm just going to suppose that he may have been 100, maybe 100 to 500 yards away. So now he's got to go back and backtrack and remember and recall the steps.
You ain't got to do that. No, you don't have to do that in the text.
In the text,
in the text, you ain't got to eisegetically extract that, because in the text it says, when he said, because let me tell you something. First of all, when you have a need and you go and share that need, you need to be ready to answer when that time comes. Okay, because he said, where did you lose it? What happens next? It says, and he showed him the place. A lot of times we've lost it, but the problem is we don't remember where we lost it. We can't with 100% certainty say where we lost, wherever it was, we lost what it was that we lost.
Right.
And because we do, we end up wandering. See, listen, one thing about life, every negative emotion has to have a body to attach itself to.
Yes, sir.
And once it attaches itself to a body, then it begins to pick up life. And then once what life does is it starts to shed life and produce more life, right? And so if a negative emotion is out producing life, what's it going to produce? More negative emotions,
Exactly.
right? And you're going to always walk in your negative emotions until you really attach yourself to purpose. And see his purpose, because his purpose was to fell trees with an axe head. Put it back up there. Hold on. It's right there. It is. It said he was felling a beam.
Right.
The axe fell into the water. His purpose was to knock down trees with an axe head.
Right.
Now, once he loses his axe head,
His purpose
he doesn't
gone.
have. He's lost his purpose.
Yeah.
So he
Purpose
can
gone.
no longer do what he's doing. So he could have went ahead and functioned in his dysfunction, but he had sense enough to say, "Alas, master." That's all he
Right,
had to say.
Right.
He didn't even have to say
Right.
it was borrowed.
Right.
Because the
right.
man of God already knew that.
Right.
Right.
So at one point he had to come to grips with his own dysfunction.
Yeah.
And after he realized his dysfunction, he had to go and purposefully seek out someone who could help him get back to his purpose.
And the question is, and here's a good interpretive question we can ask: how long did you deal with your dysfunction?
Right. Yeah.
He didn't deal with his dysfunction but a moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because see, when the Bible says that when the enemy comes in like a flood, what happens? The Spirit of the Lord
lift up a standard.
automatically.
Automatic.
You don't have to do nothing to reach for that. It just happens, right? And so our body should have, especially when we're real sensitive to the things of the Spirit, our body should have certain little types of alarm systems on it, right? And so when dysfunction presents itself, we should be able to reject.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
And so because this man was was of the prophets, he knew at that moment he lost his axe head.
Right.
Something was off. Reject.
Right.
Alas,
Right.
master.
Right.
Help.
Right. Oh, see, you finna open up another
Help.
thing though. Yeah. Well, when you said that, I don't want to sound like that the Spirit doesn't help us with groanings and moanings that cannot be. I don't want to sound like that. Okay, but what you just said, when the Spirit of the Lord, when the enemy comes in like a flood, Spirit of the Lord lift up standard. You said there should be some mechanism within us, and there should be. Here it is. When we are operating in a place of a free-flowing spirit, here we go, of a free-flowing, just the Spirit is free-flowing within us. But James, what do you do? Here it is, though, when that trauma sets up on that, now you got to fight through that to get back to a place where you're alert. And that's what I'm saying. That's, you know what I'm saying? That's what the trauma sometimes is sent to desensitize the alertness of your spirit.
Man, remember what I told you earlier today? I said, if once you do it, say life goes through three processes, right? There's especially when it relates to sin, right? There's a process of wondering what that sin. I wonder what that sin is like, right? Then when I start wondering, now I start developing an appetite for it, right? And so now I go from a process of wondering to a process of wandering. You know what I'm saying? So I started to gravitate to which I would. Then I started to go into a process of wrongdoing. So I go from wondering to wandering to wrongdoing, right? And here's what I told you earlier today. Once you start doing the wrongdoing, the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yes, sir.
The longer you operate in dysfunction, the easier it becomes, because that has become your new normal.
Right.
So here's the thing. The young man said, alas, master, I lost it. Somebody got to be willing to say, I lost it. I lost it. I lost it. I lost it. And once you recognize I lost it, then if you can't do it yourself,
Exactly. Yes, sir.
then you need to seek help.
Yeah.
He sought help. he sought help from somebody who could help him.
Somebody
And when
that
the
was
man
qualified.
and when
Yes,
the
sir.
man of God said, "Where did you lose it?" He said, "Where'd you lose it?" Where the scripture says where fell it. Uh, and then he said what?
Showed-
And he
said-
cut down a stick and cast it in thither, and something happened.
And the iron did swim.
And the iron did swim. Hold on, man. I'm texting somebody. You can go. So what do you think about that?
Well,
I'll be
okay,
right
so
back. I'm sorry. I got distracted. Y'all know y'all got to pray. I'm probably I ain't never been diagnosed with ADD, and I'm not gonna make fun of people who have it, but my bad. So that's
man,
why I'm sorry.
I'm stuck on the questioning.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just stuck on the question, and
Which
again, I know
question?
where did it fall?
Okay.
I'm stuck there because that's a point of where the trauma is now getting ready to be dealt with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
because this kind of, when he asked the question, man, my mind just kind of jumps to, and I know I may be off a little bit, but my mind kind of jumps to the story in Mark chapter 9, when the man brings his son who was possessed
Oh yeah.
to the disciples.
Yeah, that's my text there, man. I appreciate.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, so he brings them to him, right? So this young boy has some trauma that he's dealing with. Okay.
Yeah. No
He
doubt.
brings them to the disciples. The disciples represent the church. So he brings the boy who's having some trauma to church.
Can I quantify that?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I know you go. I'm gonna wait till you finish because you might bring that point up, and I don't want to mess your point up. Go ahead. You might bring it. You ain't finished.
So he brings them there, and at this moment, the trauma is so devastating that the church couldn't do anything with him.
Yeah.
At this moment. So here comes Jesus, in my opinion, who acts as some sort of a counselor, because he asked the father, he asked him question. He said, "How long
has he been in that state?
Has he been like this?"
Yeah.
So there's some moments, James. There's some moments when the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard, and we get it. But then there's also some moments when the Spirit of the Lord, or what you think or perceive, you bring him to what you think is the Spirit of the Lord, and it does nothing.
Well,
because hold on now, because now he says, so how long has he been like this? And again, this is where in my opinion, where he begins to pull back. He said he'd been like this since a boy. Okay, well, what happened in his childhood? And it goes back to the axe head is lost and dropped. So now here's Jesus doing the same thing. Well, show me where it's at. So
he couldn't answer it. But you know what? But you know what? There's a difference in the answers, though. I think the young prophet gave a specific answer.
Right. Yeah,
the father gave a very general answer. You know what I'm saying? You know, and if you want a specific blessing, you better stop giving general answers. You feel what I'm saying? Because the man said, he said, where did you lose? He said, right there. He pointed out right there. It was right there. The young man, this man, because I like that text, because in the text, the man represents the world, the boy represents a problem, and the disciples represent a very powerless church, right? And the world brought a problem to the church, and the church couldn't help them, right? And that's what's happened with a lot of folk, and that's why people don't bring issues like they used to, right? And that's why a lot of people, that's why a lot of people are not so cognizant of where they lost, wherever it was that they lost.
Right. And then that's another reason too why we tell people to try to get over it so quick.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't have
we're not equipped
to help them.
Exactly. We're not equipped to help them.
Yes, sir.
So we want to coach them through helping, through getting through their own hurt, and then take credit for it when they get through it. But we don't take credit for the dysfunction that they went through.
Right.
Bro, I'm telling you, I woke up this morning and I'm sitting there having my own, cause boy, I'm a Cancer too, so you know we internalize everything. So I'm sitting up here having my own. We got to cut this conversation off in about 4 or 5 minutes too.
Yeah, I got to run back too.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But but I'm having my own little personal pity party, right? And I'm going through this, and the Holy Spirit, because this whole lost accent thing that came to my mind in the past, right? And I kept asking myself, where did you lose it? Where'd you lose it? Where'd you lose it? And I went back to 2001. And in 2001, man, I got a few things I went through, and I'm not quite ready to share those yet.
Right.
And as I
Yes,
get
sir.
close, but trust me,
Man.
folks, I did
Yes,
some
sir.
things, some
Yes, sir.
major mistakes in 2001, and I moved on.
Yeah.
And those were very life-changing moments, and they changed the trajectory of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept operating in dysfunction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all I had to do was go to the master,
Right, and say
and
alas.
say, I lost. And all he wanted me to do is admit it by
Right,
saying, where
right,
did you
right,
where
right,
did you
right,
lose? All I had to
right,
say, I lost it right
right,
over there. I was
right,
messing around with that, and I did that right
right,
there, and I got pulled over there. I did all that. And
right,
once I admit, because like you said, we're overcomers by the blood of the
right.
Lamb and by the what?
Word about
The
word
word
about
of our
that.
testimony. So
Right,
all he wanted to hear, and once he does, and once we are transparent with him,
right,
then he becomes transcendent for us.
right, right,
Because
right,
he did something that
Mm.
just didn't make sense.
right, right,
He cut down a stick, cast it in the water over by where the axe head was. An axe head usually weighs about 5 to 7 pounds.
right.
It
Sinks to the
sinks.
bottom.
Gravity does what it's supposed to do. It pulls it down, right? But all of a sudden, that which was supposed to be sinking started
Mhm.
swimming.
Right.
Somebody
Yeah.
listening now, Avery, has been sinking. Maybe it wasn't for the last since 2001, like me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Maybe it was 2021. Maybe it
Right.
was 2011. But whatever it was, if you tell the master, that's my
Right.
opinion. That's where I'm
Right.
at.
Right.
And
Right.
then and I'm gonna say you tell whoever can help you.
Right. Yeah.
At that particular moment, once you're transparent, you give him the opportunity to
Right.
transcend
Yes,
what's
sir.
about to happen
Yes, sir.
in your life.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead,
Because
give us some close.
well,
Go ahead,
I mean,
go ahead.
you hit it on the head. I mean, the first thing I believe we have to do, number one, James, a lot of us, we may operate in what is normal, but a lot of times we know internally, we know what our dysfunctions are. So
Oh,
I
no
think
doubt.
a lot of times the first thing we have to do is stop long enough to recognize and admit to ourselves, you know what? I'm operating in dysfunction. I'm operating in my trauma. So let me stop right now so I can go back and find out where I dropped it or lost it at. And at that point, as you said, that when the transparency happened, because in my life, brother, it wasn't until you like you said, it wasn't until I got honest with me
Yeah.
first.
Let me
That's
tell you
when the
something.
help. That's when the help comes. When
But
you're
listen,
honest with yourself.
I'm from the country. Look, we're a little place down in Sherrill, Arkansas. I don't know. You probably don't know where Sherrill is. Right down by England and all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
But grandmama had a saying when the storm started. You know what she said?
What's that?
Sit down somewhere. Boy, that's an offering, right? Y'all, that's an offering. Y'all need to send an offering right there. Listen, but she would say, sit down somewhere, right?
Mhm.
Because in saying sit down, she was saying then the Lord can do his work. See, when we go through when we lose it,
Right. Right.
but don't involve him in the loss
Right.
process.
Right. 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 Right.
When we
And
lose
then we trying to find it ourselves and making a
trying to
bigger
find it
mess.
ourselves
Getting more
down
force.
somewhere.
Yep. Sit down somewhere.
and let the Lord do his work. If we do that, then guess what will happen? The iron will start swimming. And the very purpose
Yeah.
that you had lost,
Right.
you will be
Right.
able to attach yourself to
Yes,
purpose
sir.
again.
Yes.
And I'm
sir.
gonna be honest, so that's why the other day, that's why I say a lot of people laughing, but ain't many people smiling.
Mm,
That's when
yeah.
you'll get your
Yeah.
smile back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's when you'll get the smile
Yes,
back.
sir.
Listen, man, I try to keep these under hours, so I don't have to cut them up and all that kind of stuff. So we're about to get on out of here.
Yes, sir.
but I've enjoyed this conversation.
Yes,
Lady
sir,
Sabrina,
man.
thanks for stopping by and talking with us. Hey, we're gonna be doing this more often. This was Avery made me pop
Man,
up
I
today.
had look. Yeah, it was your post, man. We had to jump on it. Had to jump on it.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you for jumping on,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Hey, we're
Yes,
gonna
sir.
grow. We're gonna grow.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna
Yes,
continue
sir.
to do this. And we're gonna bless some people, man. And this is a good one. And I think we're gonna probably part through this conversation.
Okay.
If you're available later on tonight, you want to jump back in or something like. I know you got your double working the double. If you're available sometime tomorrow, we'll jump back in. All right.
Okay. Sounds good,
All right,
bro.
my friend. God bless.
All right,
Hey,
man.
listen, y'all.
All right.
The world is changing. My question for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all be good. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.